Alright, what's going on, you guys? Welcome to Madrid Hub again. I'm your host, Dr. JOTA, and today we have a bunch of stuff to talk about in this show, in this video of Madrid Hub. So I will be taking a look at the different news that I have right now for you all here, and I will be talking about each one of those because all of them are really important. So probably I will cover the arguably most important news, which is about the exclusive news that Edu Aguirre delivered last night in El Chiringuito regarding to the relationship between Eden Hazard and the rest of the locker room and the rest of the teammates, and especially between the relationship between Eden Hazard and Carlo Ancelotti, and why the Italian coach is no longer trusting on him anymore. As you know, Hazard hasn't been playing a single minute over the last 4 or 5 games, and there is a reason for it, and that is exactly what Edu Aguirre unveiled last night. So I will be talking about that a little bit longer by the end of the video. But before that, I wanted to talk about first regarding to Brahim Diaz, because we have 2 different news from coming out from different journalists, and it's funny because they are coming out in different directions and they are claiming exactly the opposite, so it's not the same. So I will be covering both versions, I will be covering both news, and then, I don't know guys, you can get your own, thought, your own opinion about that, about which one is true, which one is not, or what can happen with this player, with Brahim Diaz. So this morning, Jose Felix Diaz, wrote an article in Diario Marca claiming Real Madrid hasn't changed any plan as far as Brahim Diaz in terms of discontinuing the loan that they have with Milan over the next 2 years to get him back sooner than expected. Brahim Diaz, according to Jose Felix Diaz, will keep playing for Milan until the end of June 2023. So that is as far as Jose Felix Diaz. But last night, Eduardo Inda in El Chiringuito claimed Carlo Ancelotti has asked to Florentino Perez to stop the loan of Brahim Diaz in Milan and get him back right after, so by the end of the month of June 2022, because apparently he wants to count on him in the next Real Madrid for the next season. So now, if you ask to me which one I think is true, I'd say it makes more sense to me the things that Jose Felix Diaz is claiming rather than the words of Eduardo Inda. And the reason for that is because next year, you have to keep in mind, we will bring in some of the best players in the world, like Erling Haaland and Kylian Mbappe, and we already have players like Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo Goes and Benzema, which means the attack of Real Madrid will be, packed, completely overcrowded. So if we join another very good player like Brahim Diaz, he won't probably find a spot for him in Real Madrid, and he will get back to the same situation he used to be in the past in Real Madrid. And the reason why he quit Real Madrid and he was given on loan to Milan, just because he didn't find a spot. Any coach, neither Zidane nor Carlo Ancelotti, were able to find a spot for Brahim Diaz, and that's why he ended playing for Milan. So there's no point in bringing him back sooner than expected and then to come across the same problem that we used to have with him. You know what I'm saying? So to me, the words from Jose Felix Diaz make much more sense than the words from Eduardo Inda. So I don't think Carlo Ancelotti has asked to Florentino Perez to stop the loan of Brahim Diaz in Milan. But let's see what happens, because nobody knows what can happen when it comes to soccer, signings, plans, future, and stuff like that. So now let me move on and let's keep talking about the news from Eduardo Inda as well, as far as Eden Hazard and Antonio Conte. Because last night, Eduardo Inda claimed as well, Hazard apparently had a pre-agreement or some kind of agreement with Tottenham to go there and play as of next January, as of the next winter market. But according to Eduardo Inda, Antonio Conte said no and stopped everything completely because he doesn't want at all to Eden Hazard in his side, in his squad. So there's no point in keeping or insisting in signing into Eden Hazard from Daniel Levy or from Tottenham side perspective, just because apparently Antonio Conte is not okay with that. He wasn't okay with that, and when he learned Tottenham was going to sign to Eden Hazard for next January, apparently he stopped everything and said no. And on the other hand, at the same time, Antonio Conte asked to Daniel Levy to find an agreement with Real Madrid for Gareth Bale, to whom apparently he wants him to play in Tottenham next year. I mean, this is the guy that he does really want in Tottenham as of next January 2022. Don't ask me why. I mean, I don't really know why he's okay with Gareth Bale, but he's not okay with Eden Hazard. It's probably because Gareth Bale is the same situation than Eden Hazard in Real Madrid, but he is still fit, he's still professional, he's still a player who can score a bunch of goals. I don't know really what is the reason behind the decision, but in my opinion makes much more sense to sign a player like Gareth Bale rather than Eden Hazard, who is completely out of shape. And of course, after the words that I will tell you by the end of the video, you will understand why not many coaches want to work with Eden Hazard, because he's not very professional. So I will explain you why. But before that, let me move on and let's talk about a couple names, a couple players who might be signing for Real Madrid next year. First one is Karim Adeyemi. Karim Adeyemi, the Salzburg player, he was asked about the possibility for him to play in Borussia Dortmund, right? So he was asked something like, okay, are you okay playing in yellow, which is the color of Borussia Dortmund? And he said, I think red and white, it's better for me. And these words have been interpreted like a kind of gesture or, signal for Real Madrid fans saying, hey, I like white and white fits perfectly to me. So it's a kind of way to say maybe Real Madrid is better, maybe the white of Real Madrid is better for me or fits better in my body for me or something like that. This kind of something stupid speculations from journalists and people in newspapers and media and stuff, but that can be true. Sometimes it's just a very stupid question, very dumb answer, but sometimes it makes sense. And this time, now that we know that at Adeyemi last week he was offered to Real Madrid by his agents and Real Madrid and Atletico de Madrid, it might have some sense, right? So let's say that it can be something, or it could be right, okay? So let's put it aside and wait what happens in the future. And wait to see what happens in the future. And then I will be talking about Tchouameni, another player who has been in the loop of Real Madrid for the last months, I would say, just because Diario Marca, in one of his covers like 2 months ago, Tchouameni, Diario Marca claimed Tchouameni is one of the targets of Real Madrid for the next season. And he was asked about that in L'Equipe, and he said, it really flattered me, and it is really something that praises me, and it's something that I really like it. That is what Tchouameni said as far as the Diario Marca's cover, claiming that he might be one of the goals of Real Madrid for the next year. So we still don't know what is going on. He's very concentrated and focused on the present to keep playing for Monaco. He's a player who is worth 60 million euros. He's a player who has a lot of interested clubs behind him, like Manchester City, Paris Saint-Germain, and also Real Madrid. So we can't say he will play for Real Madrid because it's really difficult to figure what is going on and what is going to happen to him next year. And now let me move on and let me cover the arguably most important topic today, which is about the exclusive news from Eduardo Aguirre last night in El Chiringuito, talking about the behavior of Eden Hazard in Real Madrid, especially in the training ground, in the practices, where apparently the player is not the top professional he's supposed to be. Apparently someone from the locker room, within the locker room of Real Madrid, was talking to Eduardo Aguirre, and he told him that Eden Hazard is a little bit, he's a very poor professional. His behavior is very poor sometimes. He's not doing what he's expected to do, especially for a player who was supposed to be one of the top soccer players in the world. And this is something that is freaking out a lot to some of the teammates and also to Carlo Ancelotti. And apparently Carlo Ancelotti is done with Eden Hazard, and he's not willing to give him a single minute in Real Madrid until he doesn't change his attitude and he trains and work out much harder than he's doing right now. But the problem with that is Eden Hazard is that kind of player, and he used to be that kind of player in Chelsea as well. We heard years ago when he was in Chelsea, Mauricio Sarri was complaining about the behavior of Eden Hazard in the training ground, respectively to the rest of the teammates. He was a very lazy guy for the practices. He was not professional. He was all the time doing whatever he wanted to do. He was not giving everything he got in every single practice. He was very poor professional. Sometimes teammates are very irritated with him just because he doesn't behave in the way he's supposed to behave for a top professional soccer player. And that's why a lot of coaches and people are really upset with him. And apparently this kind of behavior is still going on in Real Madrid, and that's why Carlo Ancelotti doesn't want to give him any other opportunity. Although he has tried, though, because in the end, in the beginning of the season, what we saw is in the lineup of Real Madrid, Eden Hazard was ahead of Vinicius Jr., and Vinicius Jr. started the games from the bench. But that changed when Carlo Ancelotti noticed that Vinicius Jr. right now is a much better player than Eden Hazard. And on top of that, if you see to Eden Hazard, slacking and kind of sluggish in every single practice, you say, okay, this guy is done here and he won't play with me anymore. And I'm okay with that. I really understand. The problem with that is we knew this before to sign him in Real Madrid. So who was the responsible for it? Who said, okay, this is not big deal, it's okay. We can work this thing out in different ways, or we can look through this or something like that. Who said that? It is the kind of player who is not willing to give everything he got in every single practice. So now this problem is popping up as a big deal and reason enough for Carlo Ancelotti for not line him up in any game. You know what I'm saying? And I'm okay with that. He's doing great, and it's a very good decision, because as long as you don't want to work, man, you can't play in this team. So as long as we have a single offer coming through next winter, man, we have to get rid of this player right quick, right immediately. So let's see what happens. But this is not very good news from Eden Hazard, especially for the future. So now, let me know your thoughts about that. Just comment in the section below. And of course, subscribe to my channel, Madrid Hub.